Ground sensors activate. 04:00 AM local time. Ethiopian mechanized units moving south. Direction, Eritrean border. Distance to Port Assab, 67 kilometers. 130 million people. Landlocked since 1993. Economic strangulation accelerating. Command at Addis Ababa faces historical grievance meeting immediate necessity. The Red Sea access denied for 33 years. $400 million paid annually to Djibouti for port services. Dependency unsustainable. Sovereignty incomplete. Prime Minister's office receives final intelligence. Eritrean defenses at Assab. Moderate but dug in. Anti-aircraft systems deployed. Coastal batteries operational. Mining suspected across approach routes. The target is not just port, it is national survival. What should Ethiopia prioritize first? A. Secure port infrastructure intact. B. Neutralize Eritrean air defenses. C. Establish international legitimacy. Global Conflict Room reconstructs the calculus. Ethiopia without sea access is economic prisoner. 95% of trade flows through Djibouti. Single point of failure. Port congestion costs billions. Alternative needed desperately. Assab offers solution. Deepwater port. Established infrastructure. Proximity to Ethiopian highlands. Historical connection predating Eritrean independence. The logic is geographical. The politics are explosive. Eritrea views Assab as sovereign territory. International law supports this position. Ethiopia claims existential necessity. Historical injustice argument. The collision is inevitable. Regional powers position immediately. United Arab Emirates support Ethiopia. Military cooperation agreements signed. Investments in Ethiopian infrastructure. Strategic partnership formalized. Egypt calls Ethiopian Red Sea presence existential threat. Nile water disputes shadow everything. Sudan instability complicates. Naval presence in Red Sea increases. Saudi Arabia watches cautiously. Red Sea security critical. Houthi threats from Yemen ongoing. Ethiopian-Eritrean war destabilizes further. China, economic interests massive. Belt and Road projects vulnerable. Railway to Djibouti represents investment. Alternative routes through Assab attractive. Russia, arms sales to both sides, playing all angles, influence through weapons. The room tracks every alignment. Ethiopian armor into disputed border zone. Not invasion yet. Pressure tactic. Coercive diplomacy. Eritrean forces go to highest alert. President Isaias Afwerki convenes emergency session. Options limited. Military inferior to Ethiopia. Population 3 million versus 130 million. Economy tiny. International support minimal. But terrain favors defense. Nationalism runs deep. Resistance capacity proven in independence war. The calculation: can Eritrea bleed Ethiopia enough to force negotiation? African Union emergency meeting called. Consensus impossible. Some members support Ethiopian maritime access. Others defend Eritrean sovereignty. The organization paralyzed by contradiction. Both positions have merit. Both positions exclude compromise. United Nations Security Council monitors. Intervention unlikely. Great powers divided. Ethiopia receives tacit approval from some. Eritrea receives sympathy from others. International law versus practical necessity. The debate is ancient. The stakes are modern. What happens in next 72 hours determines Horn of Africa stability for next decade. Intelligence updates every 30 minutes. Ethiopian forces, 50,000 troops positioned, 200 tanks, 150 artillery pieces, air superiority, Ethiopian. Eritrean defenses, 20,000 at Assab, fortified positions, anti-tank capabilities, prepared for siege. The military balance favors Ethiopia overwhelmingly, but urban warfare negates advantages. Port infrastructure vulnerable to destruction. Civilian casualties potentially massive. International condemnation guaranteed. The victory might be Pyrrhic. Is this necessary deterrence or dangerous escalation? Analysts assess historical context. Ethiopia lost sea access in Eritrean independence 1993. Referendum was legitimate. Separation was legal, but consequences for Ethiopia were catastrophic. Economic landlocked status, dependency on neighbors, vulnerability to external pressure. 33 years of this condition. Patience exhausted. Ethiopian military planners operate on 3 scenarios. First, Eritrea negotiates under pressure. Port access granted through agreement. Face-saving formula found. International mediation succeeds. Second, limited military operation. Assab seized quickly. Eritrea protests but accepts reality. International community condemns but moves on. Third, protracted conflict, urban warfare, regional involvement, humanitarian catastrophe. The scenarios range from manageable to disastrous. Command prepares for second, fears third, hopes for first. Diplomatic channels activate simultaneously. Turkey mediates. Historical Ottoman connections leveraged. Gulf states pressure both sides. Different directions. UAE pushes Ethiopia forward. Saudi Arabia urges caution. Egypt threatens intervention if Ethiopia acts. The diplomatic traffic is intense and contradictory. Which regional power has most leverage? A. UAE through economic investment. B. Egypt through military capability. C. Saudi Arabia through diplomatic influence. Red Sea shipping lanes monitor the crisis. Insurance rates spike. Tanker traffic reroutes. Global energy markets react. Bab el-Mandeb Strait connects to Assab region. Instability there affects global commerce. 4.8 million barrels daily through the strait. Disruption cascades globally. The economic pressure works both ways. Ethiopia needs port. World needs stability. Leverage distributes across actors. Addis Ababa calculates the international response. African Union, divided but ultimately impotent. Arab League, hostile to Ethiopian expansion. European Union, concerned about refugee flows. United States, distracted by multiple crises. China, economically invested in both. Russia, arms dealer to all. The intervention likelihood, low. The condemnation likelihood, high. If Ethiopia acts fast, presents accomplished fact, international community will adjust. This is the calculation. Eritrean intelligence penetrates Ethiopian planning. Not completely, but enough. Assab defenses reinforce. Civilians evacuate. Infrastructure prepared for damage. Scorched earth policy considered. Better destroyed than captured. The desperation is strategic. Port in Ethiopian hands changes regional balance permanently. Eritrea becomes irrelevant. Economy collapses. Government falls potentially. The stakes are regime survival. Ethiopian special forces infiltrate first. Not invasion. Reconnaissance. Target identification. Defense mapping. Preparation for main assault. Eritrean counterintelligence detects some, not all. The fog of war already descending. Both sides see partially. Both sides guess dangerously. 48 hours into crisis. No shots fired yet. But military momentum building. Ethiopian public opinion. Strongly supportive. National pride. Historical justice. Economic necessity. Opposition minimal. Eritrean public opinion. Rally around flag. External threat unifies. Government unpopular, but invasion more unpopular. The domestic politics favor escalation. If you follow Horn of Africa conflict analysis, type GCR. UAE deploys advisors to Ethiopian command. Not combat troops. Technical support. Intelligence sharing. Logistics coordination. The involvement is plausibly deniable, but critical to Ethiopian capability. Satellite imagery provided. Communications equipment supplied. Cyber warfare support offered. Egypt moves naval assets closer. Frigate in southern Red Sea. Submarines possibly deployed. Signal to Ethiopia. Expansion has consequences. Regional balance matters. Nile and Red Sea are connected. Pressure in one creates pressure in other. Saudi Arabia attempts final mediation. Crown Prince calls both leaders, offers economic package, guaranteed port access for Ethiopia, sovereignty preserved for Eritrea, financial compensation for both. The proposal is reasonable, therefore unlikely to succeed. Reasonable compromises require trust. Trust requires history of cooperation. History shows only conflict. Ethiopian armor advances to final positions, not across border yet, but poised. 67 kilometers to Assab, through desert and hills, defended but penetrable. Timeline: 72 hours from order to control, if resistance collapses. Double that if urban warfare. Triple if regional intervention. The planning is detailed. The contingencies are inadequate. Reality always surprises. Eritrean leadership debates options: fight and lose, negotiate and survive. Somewhere between. Every option is bad. The question is least bad. President Isaias known for stubbornness, negotiation seen as weakness. But military realities are harsh. Sometimes survival requires flexibility. The internal debate is intense. Global Conflict Room analyzes decision pressures. Ethiopian command, domestic support strong. Military superiority clear. International intervention unlikely. Economic necessity compelling. All factors favor action. Eritrean command, military inferior. Territory defending. Nationalism mobilized. International sympathy possible. Some factors favor resistance. The asymmetry is classic. Strong power versus weak. Legitimate grievance versus sovereign rights. Neither side can fully yield. Both sides cannot win completely. 72 hours in. Ethiopian forces receive movement orders, not invasion authorization, preparation directive. Final diplomatic window still open, but closing rapidly. Eritrea reinforces Assab, but knows it's insufficient. The question isn't if Ethiopia can take port. Question is, what happens after? Occupation requires resources. Garrisoning requires troops. International legitimacy requires recognition. None guaranteed. Port secured but unusable if regional powers blockade. Infrastructure captured but destroyed if fighting intense. Victory achieved but costly if resistance continues. The second-order effects matter more than first. What decision would you make in that room when historical injustice meets current necessity? When economic survival requires military action? When international law protects intolerable status quo? When regional powers pull different directions? When consequences extend decades? Ethiopian command must decide. Soon. The crisis at Assab is case study in modern geopolitical pressure. Landlocked nations face structural disadvantage. Economic strangulation is slow, but total. Diplomatic solutions often fail. Military options are dangerous, but tempting. The pattern repeats globally. Bolivia, Paraguay, Central African states, all landlocked, all economically constrained, all resentful of geographic fate. Ethiopia is largest, most capable, most desperate, therefore most likely to act. Port access is not luxury, it is survival. 400 million annually to Djibouti. That's investment in Ethiopian infrastructure instead. That's schools, hospitals, roads, development. The opportunity cost is staggering. 33 years of payments, $13 billion total. For what? Permission to use neighbor's port, dependency, vulnerability, humiliation. The resentment is justified. But Eritrean sovereignty is also legitimate. Independence was earned through blood. Referendum was democratic. Separation was legal. Ethiopia's grievance doesn't invalidate Eritrea's rights. The moral complexity is real. Neither side is simply wrong. Neither side is simply right. This is what makes conflict likely. Clear villainy often prevents war. Moral ambiguity enables it. When both sides have legitimate claims, when both sides feel aggrieved, when both sides see necessity, collision becomes inevitable. Global Conflict Room doesn't judge. It analyzes the pressures, the calculations, the decisions. Understanding conflict requires seeing all perspectives, appreciating all constraints, recognizing all incentives. Ethiopian need for port is real. Eritrean claim to sovereignty is valid. Regional power competition is active. International law is inadequate. The collision of legitimate interests. This is conflict in modern world. Subscribe to Global Conflict Room, inside the room where history changes, where geography determines destiny, where economics drives military action, where regional powers compete through proxies. The Assab crisis continues. The decision approaches. The consequences will reverberate for decades. Was Ethiopian patience too long or too short? Was Eritrean stubbornness principled or self-destructive? Was international mediation insufficient or impossible? The questions linger. The crisis accelerates. Inside the room, where commanders calculate, where economists project, where diplomats negotiate, where war becomes option. This is Assab. This is Horn of Africa. This is modern conflict over ancient necessity. The sea,